Promise I'll be nice. $70,000 for an Oscar party in Los Angeles. Yeah. Yep. That's what we're spending our money on. So thanks Canadian Heritage for that one. People are asking questions. RCMP detail for Mark Carney already. Yes, it seems so. They're parking in the wrong parking lot, and there's a traffic warden or a parking warden who is very, very upset by that whole thing. The Ukraine war takes a turn. Trump is not going to bend the knee to these people who want forever wars. Putin wants rare earth metals deal with Trump. And so that's interesting. So the United States and Russia might start working on a rare metals deal in the Donbass area. And hey, Ukraine, I can see Russia from my house. London and France want to present a ceasefire agreement to Trump that includes British troops on the ground in Ukraine. So that would be funny if there's a rare metals deal with a peaceful, normalized Russia with the United States on one side and, British, not NATO troops, because I don't think England's calling for NATO troops, but we'll look at it. I don't know. But if it's NATO troops, I don't think Trump wants to be a part of that. So maybe he walks out of NATO, but I don't know about that. And NATO refuses to refuel a U.S. warship. So Trump might be mad enough to do something like that. Who knows? And Trudeau is in London trying to negotiate with the people who are not Trump right now. So like Macron and Keir Starmer and Justin Trudeau, they're trying to negotiate some kind of peace with Zelensky, but Russia's not there. Russia's not on board, which is the problem with all of the negotiations they've done up till now. They just haven't included Russia. We're going to negotiate this and tell you how it's going to go. Russia, okay? And Russia says no. And that's the end of it. So we'll see. There's lots to get to. Let's get to it first. Ukraine. We got to start with Ukraine because this is the big deal right now. And this is kind of the main focus. And I think that it's a fulcrum point on kind of what happens next, because this is a lot of money. It's a lot of big deal. There's lots of people saying Trump's getting it wrong. But a lot of people just on the ground, I think, are supportive of what Trump is doing. And a lot of people can see through Zelensky and they're saying, I think that Zelensky screwed himself here. Now, the mainstream media is framing this, just so you're aware, that Trump embarrassed the United States. It was Trump who was acting in a bad way, and Vance who were acting in a way that was not proper and not with the decorum and all the rest. And it was Zelensky who was totally sidelined by this and surprised and, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened. And, so the victim narrative is being flipped. And instead of the United States having everything ducks in a row and this guy getting exposed, they're saying, oh my gosh, we can't believe Trump blew up this deal in front of everybody. So it wasn't Trump blowing up the deal. Of course, it was Zelensky. But if you're watching with mainstream media eyes, I mean, you'll believe anything, I guess, right? So here's Jordan. He says, the Trump White House has an accurate read of Russia's military prowess, and it simply does not buy the Davos-class World War II analogies about Putin somehow becoming capable of marching his way through Europe. POTUS here is effectively saying, stop the nonsense. Don't insult our intelligence. Don't tell me what I'm feeling. Don't tell us our feelings. This is one of my favorite parts about yesterday. This was funny. Here is Trump and Zelensky, just again to remind us where we were at.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems. Even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless.
You don't
God
know
bless.
That.
You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that. Remember this.
I'm not
you're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
First of all, during the war.
And he says that a couple of times. You're not going to tell us what we're going to feel. And I think that's interesting. And Sean says this is the moment where Trump's whole energy changes. Yeah, he was like, hold on a second. This whole thing is not going the way it should be. Here's Trump saying, I'm not going to bend the knee for these forever wars. Here we go.
I refuse to bend the knee to their next endless war in Ukraine. I want peace. They want money and they want conflict, even if it means walking us into the brink of World War III, which frankly it is doing, and it's doing it rapidly. I refuse.
I don't have a longer clip, so I'd be interested to see kind of the fleshed out bit. We'll see. If I come across it, I'll show it to you tomorrow. Joe Warmington says, if this is true, Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, Pete Hegseth, and Tulsi Gabbard will be in it. Watch for America to pull out of NATO as a result, if it's true. This is Joe Warmington. Bruce says, following the recent White House meeting with Zelensky, Norway's prominent marine fuel provider, Halbach Bunkers, has declared it will cease supplying fuel to U.S. Navy ships. The company, a key player in the industry, has further urged other European firms to join them. So that's fun. Super good, right? And Julia says refusing to refuel a U.S. nuclear sub in Norway goes way beyond insulting Trump for calling out Zelensky's baloney. The diplomatic crisis just keep growing. At this rate, U.S. membership in NATO isn't going to last much longer, and then the rest of the West is going to discover how vulnerable they are without a U.S. umbrella. And the post he's basing it on is gone, but here's another one. It's from express.co.uk. Norway fuel giant refuses to fill U.S. submarines. So he says the original link in Mario's X post has been removed, but you can read more about the Norwegian naval fuel contractor refusing to supply vessels here. So the original link got removed, but here is a link that you can check out if you're interested. Jason Kenny says Prime Minister Trudeau happens to be in London right now. It would be conventional for him to have an audience with the King during a London visit. Under the circumstances, it's critical that this happen. This is not complicated. Even an audience with the King would be a helpful statement at this turbulent time, just as King Charles meeting with President Zelensky sends a strong message. PMO, this is a test of basic competence. If number 10 objects, tell them to mind their own damn business. So Jason Kenny wants a meeting between the King and Trudeau to legitimize Trudeau somehow. Weird. I just found that strange, but the piece of information I wanted you to know is that Trudeau's gone to London, and he's in London with Zelensky, Keir Starmer, and I don't know if Macron's actually there, but Macron's part of the negotiation detail, I guess, trying to negotiate a peace. Disclosed TV is reporting Ukraine's Zelensky has arrived at 10 Downing Street in London after being kicked out of the White House, and so here he is arriving, and Keir Starmer is greeting him. Are those Bono's sunglasses? The yellow sunglasses? No, he's not wearing sunglasses. I thought he had Bono-style sunglasses on.
President Zelensky. President Zelensky, can you get Trump back on side? Can this be salvaged, President Zelensky?
Was he just doing a Roman salute there? Is that what? Keir Starmer, is that a Roman salute? Here's Velina. She says, Britain, France, and Ukraine have agreed to collaboratively develop a ceasefire plan to present to the United States, aiming to end Russia's ongoing invasion of Ukraine. This initiative was announced by British Prime Minister Starmer ahead of a summit of European leaders in London. The summit's agenda includes discussions on establishing a European military force to support the ceasefire involving a coalition of the willing. Starmer emphasized the importance of a lasting peace agreement backed by robust security guarantees, expressing distrust toward Russian President Vladimir Putin. This development follows a tense meeting between U.S. President Trump and Ukraine President Zelensky. European leaders, including Starmer, Macron, are working to mend relations and present a united front in support of Ukraine. The proposed ceasefire plan underscores Europe's commitment to Ukraine's sovereignty and security, aiming to negotiate from a position of strength to ensure any agreement is durable and prevents further Russian aggression. Right? Is that a Roman? No. Keir Starmer says action, not just words. Britain stands with Ukraine today and always. Right? So when does the United Kingdom's government start standing with the British people and their farmers for free speech, things like that, right? Marsher says, and when Russia launches an attack, well, hold on. Mario is reporting breaking UK signs new $2.6 billion. Ooh, $2.6 billion. That's a lot of money. Defense loan, not grant for Ukraine. The United Kingdom has agreed to provide $2.6 billion in loans to boost Ukraine's defense capabilities. So that's happened late at night, presumably 18 hours ago. And Marsher says, and when Russia launches an attack on a strategic target in the UK as retaliation, we can all pretend to be outraged and confused by Russia's actions. We're being governed by morons, unable to see the bigger picture. Yeah, and $2.6 billion or 2.6 billion pounds is not nearly enough money, not nearly close to enough money to offset the funding coming from the United States. So here is just the NATO funding for member states. So David Vance says, here's some perspective. Just to be clear, Rod says, just to be clear, Europeans aren't going to do anything. So this is the funding for NATO, and the United States provides 70% of it. Okay, so that's a huge amount. That's a huge amount. Now, this is something different, but I wanted to know how much total spending on Ukraine in 2024, just to get an idea of how much money is being spent. Now, it's different than Ukraine's spending. It's not the same as Ukraine's spending. It's different than NATO spending. It's not the same as that. But I don't know if it'll fall into the same kind of ratio of spending. I'm not sure, because I don't know how much Canada has spent. Anyway, total spending for Ukraine is 119.7 billion. And if you apply the same split to the Ukraine spending that is applied to the NATO spending in the pie chart here, then the amount of money needed for just 1 year of Ukraine is, 70% is 83 billion. So roughly like 36 billion dollars. So UK providing $2.6 billion isn't going to cut it, right? It's not even close, right? And if they have to make up the whole amount of funding, the $119 billion, well, that's more than the 40% they were going to have to do before. And so they don't have the resources. The United States has the resources, but Donald Trump has the key. So, I mean, that's interesting to me. I don't know how much the percentage is on the funding, like for UK spending, for each country's contribution to Ukraine spending, but just if there's any kind of difference, maybe it falls along the same NATO lines. I figured it maps, so we'll see. I've got two American. No, this is just one. I took the other one out. There was another guy who's just kind of ranting about it. This guy's medium, just kind of ranting about it, but he makes a point. So there are all these people at the top, at the talking at you class, saying, "Oh, Slava Ukraini, we have to, stand with Ukraine." And I think that's a load of nonsense. It's a bunch of bullshit. We shouldn't be funding foreign wars. The amount of foreign funding or funding for foreign wars should be maybe a meeting room. Maybe you send your Secretary of State if it's important. You know what I mean? Like if this is something that you want to make sure this doesn't happen because there's United States interests or Canadian interests involved or whatever it is, then you send important people. And so their salaries could be part of a foreign budget type deal. You could look at it that way, but it shouldn't be in the billions of dollars, right? It should be targeted. It should be, we're going to fly in and fly out. We're having a meeting via Zoom. We're going to make sure that people are on board, right? Like we don't need to have a whole big foreign funding. And I think people are sick of it. So while the leadership class and the media class will tell you, "Oh, Slava Ukraini, and we have to do everything possible to make sure Ukraine wins in order to prevent Russia from invading the West or something." China invading the West through Vancouver and the Vancouver method and drugs seems to be fine, but Russia, that's a hard line. Sure. The real people aren't buying it. The people on the ground don't understand. I don't understand. Like, it doesn't make any rational sense to me. That's not a risk. That's not something that we need to worry about, I don't think. And so this is the difference. Here's a gentleman talking about, you stand with Ukraine, you sound like an idiot. Here we go.
I stand with Ukraine. I stand with Ukraine. I stand with Ukraine. I stand with Ukraine. I stand with people and lives and people to live long lives, and I don't stand with corrupt leaders who steal our tax dollars and live luxury lives, come over here in their damn pajamas to speak to my president, who is going through hell right now to try to make our country better, to try to give back to the American people stolen tax dollars. And so you could stand with Ukraine all you want, but you live in America, and you better get your shit together.
So it's one of those things where, like, where are your priorities? And if your priorities are there, get your head examined, because it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Election Wizard says, to fully appreciate the humor in this post, and he's responding to Paul Mason, you have to understand context. The United Kingdom has fewer than 50 deployable battle-ready tanks. The Royal Artillery has faced significant depletion in support for Ukraine, with reports indicating that the army was so low on ammunition that soldiers had to shout "bang" when firing their rifles. Bang, 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 bang. Recruitment can cannot keep pace with retirements. Same thing happening in the Canadian military. Recent data shows that the United Kingdom has more admirals than operational warships. The list could go on, but the point is clear. If the UK Prime Minister is considered the leader of the free world, we're screwed. Paul says Keir Starmer is tonight the leader of the free world because he was announcing the ceasefire plan they had for Zelensky. Sure. Leader of the free world, my butt, right? Larry says, 4 hard facts Ukraine warhawks never address. 1, Ukraine is not a democracy. Zelensky, again, canceled elections. 2, Ukraine is, like Russia, an irredeemably corrupt country, having bribed a host of government officials there, I know. 3, Ukraine has no path to victory that doesn't involve a massive commitment of U.S. ground forces and a doubling down on U.S. spending there. 4, World War III. This is the part of the Zelensky-Trump press conference that the media ignored. Trump repeatedly warned Zelensky that he was gambling with starting World War III. Direct U.S. or NATO involvement is an existing threat to Russia. A fight to the death. Millions more would die in an expansion of this war involving the whole of Europe, attacks on Western civilian populations and possibly nuclear weapons. Many of the battlefield casualties, most would be Americans, not chiefly Norwegians or Danes or French or Brits, mind you, Americans. Trump made it abundantly clear on the campaign trail in his brief tenure as president so far, and in his brief tenure as president so far, and in the meeting with Zelensky, that he wants to save lives, negotiate a peace deal, and restore order in Europe. Trump understands very well that successive U.S. administrations, both Democrat and Republican, provoke this war with unrelenting NATO expansion eastward into Russia's borders by meddling in Ukraine's politics. This was under Obama and under Bush. The Washington war machine has made cynical use of the Ukrainian meat grinder to destabilize Putin, an objective in which they have so far failed spectacularly. Whatever your feelings about Trump, you're a damn fool to be against him here. Indeed, it might cost the lives of your children or your own life. And this is Ukraine saying, believe in Ukraine, stand with Ukraine, glory to Ukraine. So, right. And he's saying, listen, man, like, it's time to end this war. And I think I pretty well agree with that. Here is one of the incentives, one of the reasons why people in Ukraine or the leadership in Ukraine may not want the war to end. And it's mainly funding, right? The incentive is dollars and cents. And here's a woman, I don't know who she is, but she says, I don't understand why Ukraine has to give over rare earth mineral mining rights to the United States. We should just... It's ours. We should be able to keep it. And so here is an American influencer guy talking about this. I just found the chart really interesting, and he breaks it down pretty okay. But I found the chart the most interesting part of this whole thing, with the loans being levied by the EU, but in the United States, the money was just handed over, like no expectation of being repaid or anything like that. And that's wild to me. Absolutely incredible. And the money, including loans from Europe, all adds up to about the money that was just given by the United States. Here we go.
Not understand how is it that we have to give rare minerals to the United States?
Oh, you don't understand? Allow me to show you. This is why you need to give rare minerals to the United States. Because here's the aid Ukraine got. This is just direct money. This isn't counting all the fucking weapons we've given you. This isn't counting the arms, the munitions, the humanitarian aid. But this is just direct cash. This is why we get your fucking minerals.
I just realized when I was looking at this as well, $119 billion was just the United States contribution. So apparently there's way more than that needs to be made up. So the $119 billion, all my math was wrong. All of it was wrong. It was just based on the $119 billion. If Ukraine, if they wanted to replace all of the money that the United States and every other country, all the European countries did, well, if they'd need to replace the $119 billion, and it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Finland is giving $2 billion, Norway $3.5 billion, Sweden $5 billion, right? Like these countries, Canada $8 billion, which is still too much. All of this is too much. This is all being laundered, like it's all being stolen. But the United States giving $119 billion, that is an insurmountable amount to make up. You can't just fill that hole, right? Like that's not practical. It's not going to happen. So they have to look at another solution or have the United States on board. And the United States is not going to be on board. Anyway, he's going to carry on with this.
Mineral rights. For all the people that are like, well, Europe contributed a ton of money. Yeah, in fucking loans. Here's the government support to Ukraine. Green are grants. Gray are guarantees. Blue are loans. So yeah, sure, when you add up all EU together, Their money gets close to ours. However, 90% of what they've given to Ukraine is in the form of fucking loans. Because Europe isn't fucking stupid and they want to be paid back. America, on the other hand, we just give them fucking money. We just keep giving it. Yeah, America's the bad guy here. The EU loans them money, they're the good guys. We just give the money and we're the bad ones.
Not understand?
Right? So it's inverted. They're telling you a story and they're leaving things out to make their story true. Here's Mark, and he says, Justin Trudeau is heading to Europe again, this time for a defense summit on Ukraine. For a guy retiring in 7 days, he sure loves flying private jets and handing out blank checks. So yeah, that's pretty wild stuff. We knew about that. CTV News is reporting Canada plans to fuel Ukraine's war effort with Russian cash. Explained. And they don't really explain it here. They just say, yeah, it's pretty legally dicey. Right? Like it says Canada is set to take its first steps towards expropriating assets held by the Russian government and sanctioned Russian citizens to help fund Ukraine's war effort, measures that could test the limits of international law. So what's the idea? Western countries have moved to isolate Russia by, among other things, sanctioning those accused of helping the war continue or profiting from it. But hold on. Here's the write-up. It says states tend to sanction individuals and freeze their accounts in order to change their behavior. But a new idea has emerged in G7 capitals in recent years, using the cash in the frozen accounts or interest earned on those accounts to help fund Ukraine's defense. Proponents of the idea say it offers a cheap way to help Ukraine push back the Russians and rebuild its damaged infrastructure. They also hope inflicting financial pain on Russia can convince it to stop or slow its deadly airstrikes and deter other countries from launching similar wars. But critics warn such a move could violate international law and give adversaries an excuse to steal private property. So yeah, I think the whole plan is a terrible idea. Like, I think it's a really, really bad idea. I think if you're the good guy, regardless of how much you hate the bad guy, you don't go steal the bad guy's money and then give it to their enemy. It just doesn't, or use it for yourself, giving it to their enemy, right? Like, it doesn't sit right with me. If we're supposed to be the good guys, when do we start acting like the good guys? Because right now we're acting like the baddies, right? Here's Andrew Coyne, and Rupa says, hey, there was a time where conservatives were not concerned with Ukraine and they said it was a faraway land. And now Pierre Poilievre is Slava Ukrainian more hard than Justin Trudeau. And what's up with that? Because it seems pretty effed up. And I agree with that. Rupa says, in December 2023, Pierre Poilievre referred to Ukraine as a faraway foreign land while attacking Justin Trudeau for ignoring problems in Canada. He clearly wasn't all in at that point. That was the right position at a point when he was riding high in the polls. And now he's not, right? And Andrew Coyne says, for some reason, the far right always converge on the pro-Russia position, right? Really? Really? So it's far right to say, listen, this is a country that is in Eastern Europe. Like, this is not our responsibility. We shouldn't be funding this. It's insane. And people say that's far right. Okay, sure, Andrew Coyne. Enjoy your Ukrainian and Moldova flag, lunatic. Here's the South Asian Times, and here's Putin saying he wants to have a rare earth metals deal with Trump. And it's a 54-second thing, and I'll read what he's saying here. Here we go. He says, as for aluminum in 2017, I believe this is new, by the way. Like, I don't think this is old. I believe this is in the last couple of days. So I think that's interesting. I don't have the date for you. And if I find out it's old, I'll tell you as soon as I know. Okay. So here we go. As for aluminum in 2017, we supplied about 15% of all American imports. About 15% came from Russia. Sorry, it's taking a long time. In general, the U.S., if you understand me, they produce 60% approximately of the required and import 40%. 15% came. Yeah, we get it. We get it, Vladimir. 15% came from Russia. You understand? The main importer today is Canada. If a decision is made to open the American market for our producers, we could sell approximately 2 million tons on the American market. So I also saw another one talking about rare earth metals. I think it was this I think it was this same interview. And I thought this was actually long enough to include both, but I guess it didn't. But here's a write-up of it. Russia is one of the world's leaders in rare earth metal reserves, Putin. We have them in the north, in Murmansk, and in Caucasus, in all of these other places, the president noted. And he was saying that he'd be happy to work with any foreign partners in the rare earth metals industry, including the Americans. There are fairly capital investive projects, he noted. So he says he wants to work with Americans and he wants to provide rare earth metals. And he said in the other video that I saw that they have more than Ukraine has. So he wants to partner with them. So very interesting stuff if that happens. We'll see, because it seems like things are a bit in flux right now. Let's do our grab bag of governance. And Dr. Makis is reporting some very concerning news out of Alberta. He says, Alberta government has frozen my Stripe account, X account, or Twitter income, newsletter income, and Give, Send, Go, almost $200,000 legal fundraiser. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith's government has viciously attacked my family again. This time, it is trying to bankrupt my family while raiding my income sources. This is an unprecedented attack on any physician in Canada. This has never been done. God help you if you're helping cancer patients. This is the message from Alberta Premier Danielle Smith, who has collaborated with a Trudeau-appointed judge, Justice Avril Ingalls, in this latest attack on my family. This is the same UCP government that gave medical licenses back during the 21-24 to doctors who were trafficking and sexually assaulting children as young as 5 years old, and he names them. This is a crime already reported to the Edmonton police. However, they refuse to act. Alberta Health Services filed fraudulent Crown application and received fraudulent enhanced cost award from a Justin Trudeau-appointed judge who has spent the last 5 years putting this attack together in collaboration with Alberta Health Services against my family, an extortion plot that has cost Alberta taxpayers already over $10 million in legal fees, not counting the bribes to the judges involved. To summarize, my Stripe account has been frozen, my X income is being stolen, my newsletters income is being stolen, my Give, Send, Go legal fund is frozen, and $200,000 stolen and blocked from being able to raise any further funds. And then he gives the timeline. So awful. This is kind of what I was talking about yesterday, and I'm not saying don't speak out, but people see this and they are incentivized to not do anything because look at what happens to these people when they do. Even effective, strong people who have like tons of scientific backing, right? And like it's terrible, but I mean, I don't know how to deal with that problem because it is a problem. Juno News is reporting Premier Danielle Smith wasted no time in standing by her Saskatchewan counterpart and trying to get pipelines built. Like, why doesn't Saskatchewan and Alberta start building a pipeline? And then when Manitoba decides to get online, it'll connect up with their pipeline. Ontario can start building a pipeline. Doug Ford said he wants to build a pipeline. What's going on, guys? Like, you could play games, you could talk about it, or you could actually start doing things about it, right? Here's Danielle Smith again, and I wonder what's her game? Because if on one side, if I was attacking Dr. Makis, and I understand you have to like deal with the fire at hand, you can't say what about the other fire across town? Like, you have to fight the fire that's in front of you. But if I was having my staff persecute a doctor like that, I don't know that I'd be so, happy and all the rest with all the other interviews and things like that. Danielle Smith says, I want to offer my sincere congratulations to my friend Premier Doug Ford on his re-election. Looking forward to continuing to strengthen the partnership between Alberta and Ontario as we work to grow our economies and ensure a strong future for Canada. Doug Ford being re-elected is not a surprise. Doug Ford being re-elected is because there really wasn't another viable option in Ontario, according to the ABC people. And I'm pretty sure our elections are rigged. I'm pretty sure they're rigged. So it's one of those situations where I'm waiting for something to happen because I don't think this can last forever, but it can last a damn long time. And like it's seeming to be normalized now too. Like, people don't expect to really have much of a say, and they're quite happy to just focus on their fantasy football. You know what I mean? And it's frustrating. Don Plett, Senator Plett, says, our lame duck Prime Minister Trudeau has shamefully been filling Senate vacancies, which he lost the legitimacy to do when he prorogued Parliament and announced his future resignation. What makes things even worse is that the sole reason why Parliament was prorogued was to allow time for the Liberal Party to organize the ongoing leadership race to replace him. This was entirely self-serving. Canadians desperately need federal leadership right now, and to have placed our country on hold for 3 long months demonstrates that the Liberals are desperately focused on themselves. After 9 long years of this NDP Liberal government, it's time Canadians get to vote in a federal election. I mean, if we vote in a federal election tomorrow, like if it happened, boom, tomorrow, election called, or March 9th, whatever day, tomorrow, we're still not going to know the Chinese traders. We're still going to be using Dominion tabulation machines. It's not going to be fixed, and we're not going to be informed the way we need to be informed. And so it's a hollow victory, and anybody being elected in, anybody being swept in kind of has a cloud over them, right? Like, were you working with the Chinese? Are you now? Did you take dark money? Like, do you know? Right? And that question is for everybody, all 338 of them, or however many there will be next time, because there's been riding changes and things. Riley Donovan says, our analysis by the CMHC reveals that Canada's housing crisis will last until 2055 based on current housing construction rates. Oh, only another 30 years. Awesome. The only solution to this is to import more people from different countries and to raise taxes. That's the only solution here. Maybe communism and central bank digital currencies. That's the solution they're going to try and sell. They could solve this problem quickly by fixing immigration, but not even Poilievre wants to fix immigration. He wants to have 250,000 people a year coming in, which is far. Hello everyone, thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.